We had a friend who needed a place to live and wanted to live in the area, so he decided to move in with us, and that significantly decreased it to the point to where we were paying less than what we were paying renting.
Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it, and I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Gen Z Money Podcast, where we turn financial peace to your reality. I'm your host, James Bowman, and today is episode 47. And today I bring on Megan and Lyle from For the Love of FI. Guys, we covered so much great stuff. Megan and Lyle are a couple who are going through this financial independence journey together. And something you realize on this journey is, not only do they have some very, very controversial takes, but also you'll realize that they're just not using one avenue to create wealth. They're looking at many different avenues, whether it's the stock market, real estate, to create generational wealth and to essentially retire on. So I really hope you guys enjoy. We talk about so many different topics. If you're into stocks, we talk about it. If you're into real estate, we talk about it and some of the tips for that. So just make sure you guys stick around for the whole episode, because I'm telling you, you guys are not going to want to miss this. But I don't want to give too much away. So let's go ahead and jump right into my interview with Megan and Lyle from For the Love of FI. Megan, Lyle, welcome to the Gen Z Money Podcast, guys. How are you doing on this fabulous afternoon?
We're pretty good.
Just awesome. Thanks for asking. How you doing?
I am doing amazing, man. I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your evening to come on and share your story, because I really, really, really love what you guys are doing, especially on Instagram, sharing your journey up to this point, the wins and the losses of it all. So I really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing.
Of course, happy to be here.
So with that being said, I always like to go back to the beginning, because, a lot of people everybody thinks, investors are just rich people. They've always been rich. Money's always been in their family. So I like to take it way back to the beginning. So we'll start with you, Megan. How was money talked about and viewed in your household as you grew up?
I think it was viewed a little more like a survival tool. My parents, mostly my mother, came from a low-income family in DC. She didn't have a lot. Her brothers didn't have a lot. So I think that was kind of her way of trying to teach me how to survive in this world. So it was talked about.
Gotcha. But it sounds as though it wasn't in much of a positive light. Like there wasn't plenty of it to go around. Is that right?
No, my parents, we had, they gave us everything. Me and my brother. I think it was just like a very high strung, money wasn't exactly, it's like a necessary evil, but it was like a source of stability. And my mom made it really clear, you need to be stable. You need to have a job. You need to have your career. I think it was just a source of stress more than anything. But I grew up being pretty educated on it for the most part.
You said a term that I haven't heard from any guests on the podcast yet. That's kind of interesting. You called it a necessary evil. That's a different way to look at it. And I'm going to be honest, I don't disagree with that. I mean, if the world was perfect, we wouldn't need money. We could always trade fruits back and forth, but society would not function the way it does without it.
Absolutely not.
All right. So Lyle, what about you, man? How was money talked about and viewed in your household as you grew up, man?
So not really talked about at all in any facet of the word. It was kind of seen as rich people were kind of mean, not nice people. Usually they were given into them, and just like you said, the rich spoon kind of thing. And it was just not a topic of discussion at all until I got off to college and started doing my own thing.
Gotcha. So would you say it sounds like it was also talked about in a negative light because you said rich people are evil.
Yeah.
So you guys are using some pretty bold, terms, but I love it. So it was talked about negative, and I assume that your family wasn't those rich people that you were talking about, though, right?
No, not at all. I was first one in my family to go to college, like provided for very well. But we were always, middle class, getting by kind of thing.
Gotcha. Well, let's roll into that. So you went to college. How was that experience with kind of getting introduced to this whole like money management thing for you, Lyle?
So for me, it was a big point when I worked this summer job down at a marina at a lake, and went to do my taxes and saw how much money I made, and then went to look at my bank account and was like, where did it all go? And didn't really think a ton of much more about it until we went to go buy a house a little bit later on, and it became much more important that everything was together.
I'm going to admit I definitely had that time where I looked at my first tax return and I'm like, there is no way that I got paid this much money this year. It's not possible. Okay. What about you, Megan? When you got towards that 17, 18, 19-year-old range, how was your relationship with money? Did you start off, scot-free, making all the best decisions, or was it kind of...
No. Like I said, my parents gave us a lot growing up. So I think I understood the importance of money, but I don't think I had any idea of how important it was to really manage it until my parents were like, get out of here. Like, it's time for you to be an adult. So when I graduated college, and then it kind of hit me where I was like, okay, I have a full-time job. I have like money coming in. All right, now I don't live with my parents anymore. Like, and then like, okay, most of my money's going to my rent. And you see like, coming out of college, your credit card racks up. I don't think I really took it all seriously until I was buying the house. Because I was like, wow, houses are expensive. Living is expensive.
Gotcha. So at what point in this story, it sounds like you guys met pretty early on in this whole journey. What age did you guys link up and decide like, all right, you know what? I might like him. I might like her a little bit. Let's.
Well, I don't know. I guess your sophomore year, my junior year.
Yeah, that's when we met.
That's when we met. And then
of college?
Yeah, and then started doing a weird. Well, I was mostly me. Couldn't commit. I was like, I don't know about this guy.
I love it.
But hey, it worked out.
He was persistent.
That my man.
Yes.
Okay. So it sounds like you guys both came into this relationship not really intentional about finances until a big event of purchasing a home, which is when you guys truly were like, all right, we got to kick it into gear.
Yeah.
So, and then real fast for the listeners out there, Megan, what did you go to college for and what did you get your degree in? And were there any student loans attached to that?
I'm a graphic designer and I went to get my Bachelor of Fine Arts. I have a minor in art history, but I don't use it very much. I think it was just kind of there. My parents prepared me and my brother. We both didn't have any student loans. So I can't even like relate to that kind of struggle. So my mom, she really like made sure, since she kind of came from nothing and wanted us to like, have like that privilege that she didn't get to have.
That's super interesting. Yeah, it's super interesting you say that though, because we're in an era where there are tons of our parents who didn't have the opportunity to go to college. And so it kind of turns into this, go to college, any means necessary. If it means taking out student loans, if it means going into all this debt, you need to do it in order to be successful. So it's very interesting that your parents didn't have money, but they still were like, you're going to go to college, but we're going to do it the right way. That's super duper interesting. What about you, Lyle? What did you graduate with? What degree? And did you have any student loans attached to that?
So I graduated with a degree in secondary education for social sciences with a minor in history and economics. So just like a fancy education degree for teaching. Um, no student loans. That my parents used a 529 plan through Maryland, and that was all paid for over time down the road. Um, so I really didn't have any issues with that.
So it sounds like, looking back in hindsight, you guys started off at pretty good footing, I must say, compared to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The footing was very, and I don't want to take anything away from you guys. I'm sure you guys went to college, got the good grades, but it sounds like also your parents had something to do with that, to where they were meticulous enough to attempt to plan it out, and they ended up working with, grant scholarships and things like that. Yeah, I love that. I'm not trying to take anything away from you guys, and not trying to take anything away from them. I think it's phenomenal, and I love to hear people graduate with no student loans. Like it makes me happy. Okay, so you guys get to the point where, you know what, it's time for us to buy a house. You both graduated. You're still looking at each other like, I still like you. And so we're moving forward to buy a house. Tell me, that sounds like the catalyst of this whole, for the love of FI and, getting on the same page about money. So let's talk about that a little bit. What was it about the home buying process that kind of gave you guys the side eye, like, hey, we're not in the right spot?
I'd say, at least for me, we were on the final day of settlement, and like I was literally scraping together the last bit of funds to be able to pay just for getting into the house. And then kind of us walking away realizing like we have lived in like 200 square feet and now we have to fill 1,500 square feet. Like, how are we gonna pay for all that? And we had no idea what we were doing, and we were in the negative just starting off getting into the house. So it was very stressful right away.
Well, I think we knew we were kind of like, when we were planning it all out, we were kind of like, well, we can afford this house. We can afford it, but it's going to be like we're eating a spinach leaf a day. So we rented out a room. So we're like, okay, we need to like lower expenses like a little bit. And that was before we even knew what really, like, I guess it's like loosely house hacking is what we were doing. So that's kind of before we knew about it. We're like, this is how we're going to afford it. This is the only way we can do it. And we wanted a house, and we didn't want to pay rent to someone and put equity in someone else's pocket.
Gotcha. So Lyle said something, and I'm going to hit on a couple of points, but I really want to hit on this first point that Lyle said. And I kind of want to dig into the thought process behind that. Lyle said, you guys were living in 200 square feet, and now you're upgrading to 1,500 square feet, and you have to fill it with stuff. Walk me through, do you remember why you felt that way? Because I can remember feeling that way. And I don't know why I felt that way. Like, looking back now, I'm like, I'm such an idiot. Like, we could have all these rooms empty and nobody's going to care. So what was the thought process behind that? Was it like a societal thing, or was there pressure from other people, or what was your thought process behind that?
That's a really good question. Like, why did we feel like we had to put stuff in here? And then I did have to finance a bunch of furniture. I don't know why I did that either. Why do you feel like, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, when people come over, they want a place to sit and not just on the floor. Apparently that's frowned upon. So
Gotcha.
we had to fill it up.
Yeah, no, and I'm not trying to shame you guys or anything, but I know that this is a thought process that plenty of us go through. Like, oh, we need a TV for the living room for people to watch TV. We need a couch. We need a guest bedroom for people to stay. And so these are all things that go through all of our heads when getting our first place or buying a home. So the next point you guys talk about, which you guys are very, very transparent on your Instagram, which I was looking through earlier, is, and Lyle mentioned it, putting every single dime, scraping every single dime you had in order to make your closing, meaning your down payment, closing costs, and things like that. Let's talk about that for a second. What year did you guys purchase the home?
2019.
2019.
Okay, so like, sure. If timing couldn't have got any better for y'all, man. So in hindsight, we could say like, I would have done the same thing. I would have scraped everything to get this asset under control because we all know what has happened from 2019 to now. But let's talk about the emotions and things. Did you guys realize Megan, you kind of talked about realizing like we're going to be eating one spinach leaf a night for 3 months to save up. But did you guys realize the type of danger you were putting yourself in at that time? Or were you just more focused on getting the house and getting the asset under control?
So I wouldn't say necessarily that we felt like we were in danger, because we both, like, I was a teacher at the time, so I felt like I had a really solid guaranteed job. And she had been at her graphic designing job for a while. And, on paper, it made great sense for us to get in and stop paying rent over across the water in Federal Hill and to start owning something. We had a friend who needed a place to live and wanted to live in the area, so he decided to move in with us, and that significantly decreased it to the point to where we were paying less than what we were paying renting to live, and it made perfect sense.
So did you guys go into this home buying process with the thought of, listen, we are going to house hack it, before you guys knew what house hacking was? Or was this something where like, we have all this space and we have this opportunity to bring someone in, so let's just go ahead and do it?
So we both wanted to originally rent out a little bit of the space. We weren't sure how much space it was going to be or necessarily what it would be for, but it worked out to the point so where we found somebody who wanted to move in with us. We were super familiar with them. I played football with him for years, and super nice guy. He ended up staying with us for 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was before we like closed on the house. So I was like, we need to get somebody, we need to make sure that we have someone in immediately so that we aren't like struggling for like even a month or two. Cause we really did scrape everything together. Like, I think I took the majority of my last paycheck before that to like throw in just to make sure everything was like lined up.
Oh, that's risky. I'm getting stressed just hearing about. I mean, obviously it's worked out, but I'm like sweating. I'm like, ooh.
I know, we're really lucky nothing bad happened, honestly.
So there's all of these terms thrown out in the personal finance community, like DINKs and sinks and house hacking and all these things. And so we've kind of explained what house hacking is, which is, turning your home into a portion of your home into income producing, such as renting out a room or renting out space for storage or all these crazy types of things. So this is what you guys are doing. Looking back, you guys are DINKs, which stands for double income, no kids. It's kind of a self-explanatory answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Are you guys happy that you had the opportunity to house hack for this 2 years while you guys don't have children and you have the available space? Like, can you talk about what that has done for you guys, your personal finances and, getting ahead and staying ahead?
I mean, it's allowed us to control an asset that we necessarily shouldn't have been able to in the first place, and been able to keep it for 3 years and not just kind of keep it where it was at, but actually improve it. And we added a fourth bedroom and completely flipped the bathroom and updated. Yeah, that was a mess.
That was a nightmare.
We've updated along the way to add value, along with the appreciation that you mentioned that everybody got over the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, that's a perfect segue, Lyle, into the next topic, which is you guys do a ton of renovations by yourself. Congratulations, you guys are much better than me. So let's talk about it. First of all, you said you guys decided to add a bedroom. What inspired that?
So I actually had a friend come by, and we had been talking about like different ways to make the bedroom or make the upstairs usable, or possibly turn it into a like studio space, or rent it or do like a full unit. And he was like, well, you already have a closet and here's a walkway. Why don't we just put a door literally right here and it'll be classified as a bedroom. And I was a realtor at the time, and I was like, wow, I've lived here for 2 years and never noticed that. So yeah, it's a bedroom.
So we just stuck a door in a hallway, kind of.
Gotcha. So you guys didn't, this wasn't a thought you had on purchase, like, ooh, there's improvement opportunity there. It was just kind of like a friend was like, hey, you know, you could do this. You were like, can I, boy, can I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think a big thing about real estate investors is always being able to see value in something that maybe others cannot. I think that's what separates, home buyers from investors. And it sounds like you guys might have started this journey as a home buyer, but you've definitely shifted towards the investor space, which, you're house hacking, which is creating income through your house. And you're also adding usable square footage to your home, adding utility to your home and things like that. So Megan kind of gave the side eye when she mentioned the bathroom. So what made you guys decide to go ahead and remodel your bathroom while you're there?
There was just water damage.
There was water damage.
That needed to be tore up. There was a crack in the side of the molding on a shower, which shouldn't have existed. All shower edges that are tiled should have some kind of bull nose or edge so that the grout between them doesn't crack and there isn't a natural line for the water to run down, which is exactly what happened. And we had water all inside of it, mold everywhere. And then kind of one day when we were showering, the one little piece popped off.
We shut the door. We shut the shower door, and it just like.
And we pulled the little piece of tile back, and we
looked inside.
About a year later, we had to refix everything. So
yeah, and
all because you pulled the tile back.
I know. Well,
Okay.
I mean, we had a couple contractors. I mean, we decided to do it ourselves because we had a couple contractors come in, and like this bathroom is so custom and it's such an odd size. You can't get like standard size like shower trays. So it had to be, because it's like 28 inches wide. It's very narrow. And they came like, well, we're estimating it's going to be like $25K. And I'm like, absolutely not. They literally said that to us. I was like, this is a 60 square foot bathroom. Like, I'm very confused. Yeah.
It was just, I guess it was just weird. And it's probably that weird factor that probably jumps up the price. So Lyle, I want to say, man, the words you're throwing out and stuff, you're talking like a contractor. So it's kind of hard to believe you're a teacher, man, because you're knowing about grout lines and things like this. Is this something that you guys just picked up along the way as you did more research and figuring out how to pick these things up? Or was this just something you had in your back pocket you were waiting to deploy, in the future?
I mean, I've always had jobs where I've had to be handy, but never anything like that detailed. So that combined with YouTube and her research and designing what to do kind of worked everything out.
YouTube University, baby. I love it, man. I love it. So it's funny that you guys say this, right? Because you actually made a post on your Instagram saying an unpopular opinion is it's not always cheaper to do it yourself. Was this true for the bathroom?
For the whole project, it was. There was one or two pieces that we had to contract out, which ended up making sense instead of me flooding the entire house. We had called a plumber for a couple fittings here and there just to make sure everything was right. But like as far as the tile work and a lot of the woodwork, we did all that ourselves.
Gotcha. I love it.
Like less than half.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's very wise of you to say there are some things I can do and there are some things I can't do. Me, I can change a fitting, here or there, but I'm not getting on the roof. I'm not opening up no walls. So I am very, I think, wise to know when I am past my means. So we'll start with you, Megan, because I want to get both of you guys' separate opinions on this. How has this experience fixing up your own home affected your investing in real estate in the future? Has this made you more optimistic about it? Has this made you more pessimistic about it? Or has it just not changed your opinion at all?
I think I'm more optimistic than I was originally, just because I feel like if we're So we're planning on moving in the next couple, hopefully selling the house in the next couple months. So now like we're looking at places and I'm like, I know we'll probably get like approved for however much, but we want a place where we can fix it up and it's not intimidating because we literally, built the deck, we redid a whole bathroom. Like I think I'm a pro with drywall now. It's awful. And so it's like, it's not scary. So I think it makes it's kind of easier. Like,
What
I don't have
about
to
you,
worry
Lyle?
about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. I definitely feel far more comfortable getting into a place that needs some sweat equity into it and having the time and energy while we're still kind of younger with no kids to do that. I'm totally fine with putting in the effort in order to get into the more in-depth stuff that we want to do.
Gotcha. So what it sounds like you guys are talking about, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term, is it sounds like you guys want to be like perpetual live-in flippers, where you live in a property, you renovate it, you sell it for a profit, then you live in a property, renovate it. Is that the goal for you guys? At least Lyle looked kind of sad when he said, "Well, I still got it." You know what I mean? But is that the goal right now? Because it sounds like that's the road you're on, or do you just want to do it one more time, or what are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, so we've talked about probably just doing it one more time and then doing a cash out refi to use the cash to actually invest in short-term rentals, which is more what we're leaning toward for like more of a lifestyle investing.
Ooh, I want to dig into that a little bit. So, and this house you're currently in, you guys don't want to keep that. It probably wouldn't operate well as a rent. Oh my God, y'all are shaking your head quickly.
No, after everything's said and done, it would only make about 50 to $100 a month, and it's not worth it for the way the area is heading.
Gotcha. And you know what? That's not very surprising with the amount of appreciation we've seen with also increased interest rates. It is very hard to get a cash flowing property until rents catch up to where home prices are. So it's obvious that you guys have what I love to see is it's obvious that you guys have looked into different exit strategies. You've probably looked into long-term rentals, you probably looked into selling it, probably looked into even Airbnb-ing it, and all these different things to come up with the best educated decision. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, definitely.
I love it. So now, let's talk about it. Why short-term rentals? Because I am interested, but I'm not invested yet. Let's talk about it.
So for us, the ultimate goal is cash flow in order for her to be able to leave her job and be more a part of the kid's life, and eventually me to do the same as well. And the best way to do that for us from a number standpoint is the short-term rentals. The other aspect of that is, like I mentioned, the lifestyle aspect of we love to travel, and we absolutely love Maine and Captain's Cove, Chincoteague area. So we've kind of been looking back and forth between the two as far as investment strategies.
Gotcha. So you're not too worried about, because when you compare like long-term rentals to short-term rentals, you have more turnover, you have more maintenance, you have more, all these little things that add up. You're mainly there for the profitability of it, to escape that, 9 to 5 rat wheel, or at least to become work optional. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So have you guys had any concerns? Because what I've seen, which is my biggest concern about it, which I love short-term rentals, I'm not going to tell anybody not to do it, but my biggest concern is there's a lot of regulation coming down in different areas. Like Atlanta just had like a crazy regulation where you can only own one short-term rental and one can be your house. And there's other areas like Vegas who are really cracking down on short-term rentals. So is that something that you guys have been considering and looking at when determining where you plan on purchasing?
So he pulled up it's the HOA for Captain's Cove.
Mm-hmm.
And he was looking at if there were any rules in place, and there are some rules in place. And it seems like they've already done a lot of like thinking about it in the area. It is like a secondary home market there. It's like straight between two beaches. So, and it's a nice community. And they have some regulations, but it's pretty easy and makes us a little confident that they already know, so they're not going to just throw rules out all of a sudden.
So a lot of the areas that are getting hit by those regulations, like you said, are the brand new markets that are being introduced, where a lot of the homeowners that are there are permanent residents that aren't relying on that for their town's income. Where if you think about, like, before Airbnb and VRBO, there were hundreds of thousands of markets across the US that were regional, drivable locations that people would go on vacation, where you don't stay in hotels, like Gatlinburg down in Tennessee. Up here, it's like Deep Creek Lake or Ocean City. All of these different places people have always gone to, no matter what.
Outer
So
Banks.
the Outer Banks as well.
Outer Banks is big, so like all down
So
there.
any place where the town absolutely relies on vacation people coming, they're not going to restrict it to a point to where you can't operate and make money. Like, it just doesn't make sense for them to keep money away. So you want to find somewhere that already has something in place, but isn't too strict on the owners.
You guys, man, oh man, I could not agree more. Basically, guys, if you guys aren't tracking what they're talking about, essentially they're talking about matured markets. These are markets that have had short-term rentals for a very long time. They regulated it a long time ago, and the regulations aren't so restrictive because, like Lyle just said, they literally rely on these tourists for most of their business and most of their income. So I think it is absolutely phenomenal that you guys are looking for those matured markets to move into short-term rentals, because that's truly the best case scenario. Because like Megan emphasized, like, if they've had short-term rentals for 50 years and they set these rules in place, there's no reason why they'll just 50 years later say, okay, no more short-term rentals. Where if you compare it to somewhere like Atlanta or Vegas, where hotels are very big, that's where you're going to see these rules and regulations come in. So I get so much joy that you guys have looked into this and have already devised a plan, even though this is, in the future, 2 years plus in the future. Which brings me to another Instagram post that I kind of want to talk about, where you guys said, like, look, 5-year plans are bullshit. So I want to hear you guys' opinion, because I don't necessarily disagree, but I also don't necessarily agree with that. So Megan, we'll start with you. Why do you think 5-year plans are bullshit?
I just think, like, every time we make a plan, we're like, we're gonna do this, and then all of a sudden it's like something happens, something throws a wrench in it, whether it be like, I don't know, this area is not profitable. Like, because originally we did want to keep this house and do long-term rentals. That's initially what we really wanted to do. We bought it. We didn't want to stay. But then, like, now we're here, now we're running the numbers, now we're seeing where the area is going, and it's just like not a good, it just doesn't look like optimal for us. So I feel like we're just kind of taking things as it comes, because you don't want to be too stuck on something. We can have like a general idea of what you want to do, but I just feel like it's like, fuck the plan. I can't. It's like, I can't do it. It's too much.
I mean, you're very blunt about it. I get where you're coming from. I think having, okay, I think I found the words. Having a 5-year goal is okay, but having a 5-year plan is where the mix-up comes.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Lyle? I saw you kind of were agreeing, but what do you think?
So I'd agree. 5-year plan, it's impossible to plan everything that's going to happen between then and now. And there's no sense in getting yourself wrapped up in the small intricacies of it, when what's really more important is like choosing what you want to do and how you want to get there. And then what can you do, just one or two things every single day to get you to that point. If that takes, a couple months, that's one thing. If it takes a couple of years, it's always about just 1 or 2 things a day to get to that point. That's gonna really get you there. Not really planning 5 years in advance.
And even like planning how you're gonna get there changes. Like you can't, like you just kind of have to make it work. Whatever it is at that time, it's kind of like gotta be flexible.
You have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to pivot, because if you rely on just one thing, if you rely on being at a job for the same job for the next 5 years, you're not in control of that. So I guess it's kind of staying in control of what you can control. So there's another controversial post, guys. I'm coming for all of them because y'all say some controversial stuff that I absolutely love, but I still want to talk about it, right? Budgets aren't for everyone. Megan, you got it. You got to stand on it. What you talking about, Megan?
I'm a lazy budgeter. I don't want to look at spreadsheets. I don't want to plan everything. I just kind of want to like look at my app and like see where my money is, make sure it's going in the right place, check myself like every other week, once a month. Like I don't think it needs to be so strict. I don't think you need to be like, oh, I have to budget. Like just look at your habits. You don't have to like necessarily have like a budget written out. Just be mindful. I feel like that's like the biggest thing, is just being mindful.
It sounds like you just don't like the word budget.
I don't like, I mean, it's just like, it's not really like, I feel like budgeting is like planning. Like you're setting a budget. You're like, your money needs to go at a certain place, but it's like, you're just looking at it and checking in with it. It's not really like, you're not really making a budget. You're just keeping yourself in check. You're
just tracking your spending. You like that better, Megan?
Yeah.
What about?
I hate when people's like, here's my budget. And I'm like who can just look. You don't have to like plan out where every cent's going ahead of time.
Okay, so well, I want you to expand on that. Why do you think that's the case? Why? Like, even if we don't say like every cent, like let's say, we don't plan, let's say we have $1,000 a week income and we don't plan out $100 of it. That's not gonna kill you, but it sounds like you're not saying that you hate budgets or you hate tracking your spending. It sounds like you still do it. You just don't think it should be restrictive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I 100% agree with that. That's like a duh. Cause I think, if you make it restrictive, you're much less likely to actually follow whatever plan you have out. What do you think, Lyle? You think she's crazy? Are you kind of on the same page with that? Or
so I really like the way that Ramit Sethi looks at it, where it's like you kind of look at it in percentages or barrels instead of like exact. I need to spend $76 this month on gas and I can't go over. It's like, well, I'm going to spend this portion of my money every time on transportation, and if I go over a little bit, I have some in savings just in case. And it's not that big of a deal. We'll just adjust for next month. And it's more of thinking of it in like general sense. I know I have a little bit over this amount for groceries this month, so we're just not going to push it. Or I know that we have a little bit extra, so we can go do this fun thing at the restaurant or whatever it may be. It's more of thinking of it in a general sense and just knowing where you're at and just knowing what you want to spend is actually going to bring you joy, I think, is really what's important to us.
Gotcha. So I don't mean to try and play with you guys' words at all, but it really sounds like you guys aren't against budgets. You're just against restrictive budgets.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't restrict yourself. You should still know where your money is going, but it has to go to somewhere that you find joy.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. I can dig it, man. I can dig it. See, these aren't as controversial as I thought, right?
I think I just went like in the FI community, it's kind of like I see a lot of people talk about it in such a strict manner where they're like, I'm having no spend days, or like, and I'm like, why? It's just like, that's like being like, I don't know. You're going to overspend eventually. It just all seems so restrictive and so just.
It's like a fad diet.
Yeah. Like it kind of is.
Yeah. I also agree. Sometimes I don't really understand no spend days. For example, some people say I won't spend on Sunday, so I'll get fuel on Saturday. Well, it's like, yeah, but you're going to get the same amount of fuel you would have gotten on Sunday. So it can be very counterproductive, but I can also see where there's some people who are like, okay, I'm gonna have a no spend Sunday, which means I'm not going to stop at Starbucks, I'm not going to go to Target, and they're actually going to cut things out that they shouldn't be spending money on. So I don't know, it's kind of like just one of those things where it's a tool, and if it's used properly, then it can be productive. But if it's just used improperly, it's not going to give you any real benefit, just like a fad diet. I mean, and if you're not going to stick to it for very long.
Yeah.
So besides real estate, are you guys investing in anything else? Are you guys in the stock market at all, retirement, or are you guys going gung ho on real estate? What is your investing plan look like going forward?
I have my Roth IRA. I had a 401k from my previous job, and then when I lost it during COVID, I rolled it over. So it's just kind of been maintaining that.
Gotcha. What about you, Lyle?
I have a 403B from teaching, and then a Roth IRA as well.
And for the listeners who do not know what a 403B is, can you quickly explain what that is?
Pretty much the same thing as a 401k, just for government agency employees, usually teachers, firefighters, police officers sometimes. Really depends. Usually people that get a pension of some kind usually have an option for a 403b.
Gotcha. So word on the street, I know teachers have it, and I think you guys have two different plans, and it could be the 403b. You might know more about this, but one of your plans as a teacher allows you to withdraw your contributions once you leave. I think it's whatever school district you're in or whatever, without penalties. Is that the 403b?
So that's the other one that's not offered where I'm at. So I don't know a ton about it, but I know it is an option for other teachers.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I know there's two options. There's like the 403b, and then there's 357, 557, something along those lines. I might be making all this up. Honestly, it's super.
I know there is a second one. I just don't know a ton about it.
Gotcha. And so is that kind of the only stock market investing you guys are doing, or are you doing anything outside of those things? Because it sounds like it's all retirement based.
So we do have a small brokerage account everything that kind of goes over the investment buckets. A small portion goes into a separate brokerage account, which is pretty much just VTI over and over again.
VTI, and that's the total market index
Yeah,
fund
the
for
total market
Vanguard.
index fund for Vanguard.
Gotcha. Why? Let's go.
Low cost, extremely low cost. Before that, I was paying like I think 4 times what I'm paying now to own VTI. As far as why VTI itself, it's just easier. Don't have a ton of time to do research on stocks, and I don't necessarily want to. I don't really feel that I'm ever going to have a chance to beat people that do it for a living. So why would I try? I'd much rather just take what the average is and just move forward. It's way easier, and frankly, I don't see why you wouldn't.
It's okay being average, man. Everybody wants to be above average. I'm cool with being average.
Hey, you and me both.
So now I'm going to start an argument, right? Whose idea was it to begin tracking you guys' journey through Instagram with For the Love of FI page?
So I'd say the blog was her. Getting more like financially fit was more me diving into Dave Ramsey and becoming obsessed with it for like a couple months.
Only a couple months, not anymore.
Yeah.
Ooh, why you got to put emphasis? Hold on now. Don't talk about my boy Dave like that, Megan. Hold on.
He's great for
I'm
those
so
first
thankful
4
for him,
steps.
but it's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like Dave Ramsey is like that ex now, where I'm just like, I learned a lot from you. I'm glad we did this, but moving on to better things.
I think he does those first 4 steps fantastically
Yeah.
for people getting out of debt.
Yes.
And there's no better way to do it. highly recommend it if you're struggling with debt. However, once you get to that fourth step, you should move on to learning how to actually use different forms of debt to make money instead of being terrified of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people share that same perspective of Dave Ramsey, including myself. I think the first 4 baby steps are mandatory. I think everybody should go through them. But, and even Dave, and I'm not talking shit about Dave, guys. I love Dave. But even he admits that after that, his wealth building process is not the most optimal, although it is the most secure. So it's not a very offensive critique to have for his teachings, to say like, listen, man, you are the best for the first 4, but the last 3, you know, you're safe, but you're not optimal. And we know that a big portion of building wealth is being willing to take risks. So Dave ain't about them risks. So, but yeah, and so I have no complaints with you guys saying that. So Megan decides to start the blog, and Lyle, you said you were like Dave Ramsey gung ho. Megan, were you also Dave Ramsey gung ho in the beginning, or were you like, oh, Lyle, you're listening to this weird guy on the radio?
He's a big reader. And I'm not a big reader. So he was really just telling me about it. And at first I was like, he's like, you need to stop using your credit card. And I'm like, how dare you tell me to stop taking money that's not mine? Like, I think it's rude. So I think I cried once at the beginning. I was like, he's like, you need to stop. But I got very upset about it. But I'm thankful. Yeah, I'm thankful that you've done it now and that you pushed me. But no, at first I was like,
Yeah, I mean, it's a shock to your system, because here's the thing, Megan, what you were doing was normal. And so now you have this guy who lays next to you trying to have you do something that's not normal. And now you're questioning him like, well, where do your intentions lie? But, and so it's not even a surprise that it's like a shock to your system, because you were just being normal. And I'm sure Lyle was probably being normal before he stumbled across the coal. So,
yeah,
Very much so.
So, but I guess Lyle came off a little too strong to make you cry. But I mean, looking back,
I was just being a baby about it.
gotcha. And so what have you guys been able to feel any of the impact of the inspiration you may be giving other people, or any positive or even negative feedback as you guys share your wealth building journey?
I mean, I've had a few people who were very raised the same where I was, where, you know, we don't talk about money. It's not an appropriate discussion. You know, it's the people who have it are not people that you associate with. And just like having an open discussion with other people who had similar upbringings, to the point where we can all sit down and have great discussions. To the point where my best friend was actually able to leave his job from a lot of the stuff we've talked about, and getting his finances in order from a lot of the teaching. So it's really great to see.
Yeah, I think we've influenced a lot of like our friends to sort of see money and like how to find your happiness in a different place, I guess, if that makes sense. Like
there's another way to do it.
Yeah, like you don't have to have this career that you feel stuck in. And I think like you telling Austin, having conversations with him helped him like really like see it differently.
Yeah, and I mean, again, this is kind of like, just like Megan had a shock to her system, your friends are going to have shocks to their system. Like, what the heck? What is Lyle talking about? You can be retired in 10 years. Like, no, you can't. And so, and then you say, well, mathematically you can, and here's how. And so, Lyle, do you ever feel ostracized because you're kind of sort of becoming that rich, evil man that everybody is afraid of or everybody hates? Do you ever feel ostracized by that, or how have you navigated that power aspect in your life?
That's a good question. I don't know. I kind of see everything as like anything that I can do, I can show anybody else how to do it. Like if we're capable of doing it, then I really don't see any reason why other people in similar situations can't do the same, or at least learn from it and take their own path, no matter where we are at.
So with you guys' Instagram, it kind of seems like a way to combat that negativeness that could come from someone thinking, oh, Lyle's becoming just a rich, evil man. He's never gonna be a friend again. You guys aren't keeping any secrets from them. You're literally saying, like, listen, this is what I did, this is what I'm doing, and you can do it too. And so it kind of takes all of the excuses off the table on why they would hate you guys, for becoming rich, because you're trying to get them to do the same. Does that sound about right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely other struggles that we don't have or haven't gone through. Like we don't have student loans, and I guess you have them now a little bit, but like we didn't have that struggle coming out. Like we were placed in a good position. So some stuff we obviously can't relate to. So we understand that.
Yeah, I think it's all about, you can recognize the struggles that everybody has, and I'm blessed that I didn't have to deal with things like student loans, and it's helped me. But I also, even though I may acknowledge that those are things other people are going through and it maybe were difficult, I will not let them use that as an excuse on why they can't do it. I think that's where I draw the hard line, and that's where I always suggest everyone draws the hard line. So last question before we move on. You kind of threw out there that some student loans are coming into the picture. So what is you guys personal ideas on debt as a whole? Are you guys carrying like credit cards, car loans, things like that? Are you trying to live somewhat debt free, or what does that look like coming from the Dave Ramsey, foundations?
So we try to live with almost no credit card debt to no credit card debt at all carried over. But we still use them just for the points, for the financial aspect of it, the rewards. They're not really seen as evil like they were at the beginning. As far as the actual like carrying of,
I have my car loan. But he doesn't have a car. Well, we share a car. So what happened when COVID hit, he got in an accident and his car was totaled, and he just never got a car. We don't need one. So that kind of helps also, not having another car payment.
Gotcha. And so what are your plans? Is the car debt even bothering you, or is it just like, it's there, it'll get paid off? I have an emergency fund. I have, so it's kind of like just a brush off your shoulder, like you're not too worried about it.
No, it's not a high payment. I put a lot down for the car initially.
we think that the money is better used for investing and building more cash flow than to pay off the debt. That it'll be a higher return than the interest that we're paying on it.
Gotcha. Yeah. Hey, no problem with that, man. It's obvious that you guys are throughout this whole conversation, there's one thing that I've noticed is that you guys are very meticulous with the choices you make. Whether I would make the same choices or not is irrelevant. You guys are not making any rash decisions financially or any unreasonable risk and things like that. So it seems like you guys are being very wise with all of the decisions you've made up to this point. So I want to congratulate you guys on that, because that is phenomenal.
Thank you.
So what are some of you guys' short-term goals that you hope to accomplish within the next 6 months to a year?
Well, we want to sell this house. 6 months to a year, yeah, I guess sell the house. Ideally buy our first short-term rental. But I think until this house is ready to be on the market, everything's a little up in the air right now. So who knows, honestly.
Gotcha. Are you guys worried at all with, interest rates are going up, buyers are backing out more? Are you guys worried that it's going to be an issue, or are you guys kind of confident that you guys are going to be able to get what you asked for it and move on to the next step, whatever that is?
Speak to that.
Yeah, no, I don't think it'll be an issue at all. I mean, even if the price comes down a little bit as far as what we're able to get out of it, we'll still be well above in the green from all that appreciation we talked about earlier. And we'll have more than enough to get into our primary residence and have money left over to start looking at that short-term rental.
Gotcha. So, Lyle, you already alluded to this a little earlier, but I'm going to ask anyways. What are some of you guys' long-term goals that you hope to accomplish within the next 5 to 10 years? And what does the finish line look like for you guys? Like I said, Lyle, you kind of hinted to this earlier, but you guys want to break that down?
So I'd say in the next 5 years, we're looking at owning 5 to 8 properties in a beach area, most likely the Chincoteague area, as short-term rentals. To be able to afford the main house that she's been looking at, kind of for her dream home, live by the water. So that's kind of our end goal.
Gotcha. So it sounds like my math isn't the sharpest, but you guys are going to try to acquire 1 property per year for the next 5 years.
That's the goal, yeah.
That is very, very ambitious, and I believe you guys can do it. Very, very ambitious. That's awesome. All right, so we're going to transition into the final questions of the podcast. And of course, I ask these questions to every single guest that comes on, and I'm going to get answers from the both of you guys. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Megan, we're going to start with you. Question number 1. Everyone has their own definition of what it means to have financial peace. What is your definition?
Being able to make my own decisions every day and not have to worry about the money or where it's coming from. Being able to spend time with my family, being able to take care of my family, whether it be like my parents or, our future kids, just being there, being able to be present and having the freedom to be happy, honestly.
Gotcha. Sounds like take the money off the table and let's worry about some other problems.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Lyle, same question to you, man. Everyone has their own definition of what it means to have financial peace. What is your definition?
I'd say time freedom, being able to wake up without an alarm clock, being able to go on vacation and do the things that we want to do when we want to do them and not really be accountable and have to worry about, well, if I don't work for the next 2 weeks, am I going to be able to make the payment? Just that time freedom.
Yeah, I love it, man. And I will say, you alluded to it earlier in the podcast, but I just want to put out there the same goal you have is, retiring Megan and then retiring yourself through this whole real estate thing. I actually have the same goal for myself. I want to get enough properties to retire my wife, have children, let her be present. And at some point, I'd be able to retire myself and have that time freedom you just talked about. So we are definitely in alignment on that one, man. I love it. Question number 2, going to you, Lyle. If there are listeners out there that want to start building wealth and they have no clue where to get started, what would you tell them?
So I would say if you are in debt, go reading the Dave Ramsey Total Money Makeover is a really great place to start. If you're not in debt and you're in a fairly decent standpoint, looking at Scott Trench's book. I think it's I can't even think of the name of it, but yeah, Scott Trench from Bigger Pockets, fantastic book. Great place to actually start building wealth and look at different ways to do that, not just real set for life.
Set for life, there it is. Yep,
I had it. I was like, I know this.
Yeah, absolutely. Great place to get going.
Absolutely, guys. And I'm going to have the Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey and Set for Life down in the show notes where you guys can purchase it. Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover is my number 1 book. I always recommend it. I give it away at weddings. I give it away at, never mind. I ain't going to go there. And then Set for Life is another one, especially for the younger generation who are still able to house hack, still able to use FHA loans and all these great benefits that young people have. So Megan, going over to you. If there are listeners out there that want to start building wealth and they have no clue where to get started, what would you tell them?
Just start looking at your finances, educate yourself. And I think honestly, start looking at what actually makes you happy and cut out the other crap. because you'll probably start saving money if you do that. Believe it or not. Stop wasting your money on stuff you don't care about.
Like Megan said, cut the crap, people.
Cut the crap. Yeah, you
Cut
gotta
the
cut it
crap.
out. Like if you spend so much money on stuff like people don't really care about and you don't really care about.
Yeah, and it's only when you remove that from the budget you realize, like, I didn't need that. I never needed that. Like when I removed Disney Plus from the budget, I was like, I needed that, and I got it back. But when I removed like Hulu, I'm like, oh, I never needed that. I still haven't looked back. So yeah, cut the crap, guys.
Yeah.
But Megan, I gotta challenge you because Lyle just threw out 2 bangers of, you said educate yourself, which I agree with. Lyle threw out 2 really big bangers of a book. Where would you suggest people go to begin educating themselves? Because there's those gurus out there. They got to stay away from them. There's the foreign exchange trading people who pyramid scheme and stuff like that. Where should they be going? What do you have any resources for the listeners out there?
So I'm not a reader. I take a lot of what he says and I look at a lot of the things that he shows me. But just following people, like looking on social media, people who are doing the same thing, things that they've learned, they're like living proof. So I think looking up people like that and seeing what they have to say, how they've gotten there, like, that's better proof than anything else.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Tailoring your social media feed and filling it with people who are doing what you want to be doing. I think that's an awesome tip. All right, question number 3, going to you, Megan. If there was one thing you could advise everyone to avoid doing to build wealth, what would it be? All right, go ahead, Lyle. You could take this one, man.
I'd say avoid the get rich quick schemes. If it feels too good to be true, it is certainly too good to be true. If you want to accomplish something, you need to find somebody who's done it and just emulate what they've done. Ask a question, ask a bunch of questions, take notes, find out different ways that you could help them, and just be of assistance. That's the best way to get there. Like, stop taking advice from people who aren't where you want to be.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to identify what Lyle is talking about, guys, is if it's fast and if it's easy. If it's fast and easy, stay away from it. There's nothing in wealth building that is fast or easy. Everything is hard and it takes a very long time. So that's a great tip to stay away from these gurus. Megan, did you think of something? You got something?
Don't listen to like other people telling you how to like get rich. I mean, don't listen to people who are at a different level than you, discouraging you. Like I've had a lot of people, tell me that the way that we look at money is kind of is negative and it's not, going to help us. And I just think not listening to negative people is probably helpful.
Yeah, no, that's actually a very, very underrated thing that I think most people don't talk about. Is the reason that most people will be discouraging or they will be naysayers is because they don't believe they can do it themselves. Therefore, they don't believe that you should be able to do it. And I think that is the biggest thing that holds people back, is they're surrounded by people who aren't willing to take the risks they're willing to take or don't have the resources that you have. And because they don't have it, they do not want you to take the risk or to have it. So I think that that's super duper underrated, Megan. I love it. Question number 4, going to you, Lyle. If there's someone out there that doesn't believe they can reach financial peace due to their age, race, religion, sexual orientation, etc., what would you say to change their mind?
I'd say there's always somebody worse out there who's been able to do it. So you're just wasting time. Like the best time to start is always yesterday, but today's the next. So just get going and stop making excuses.
Yeah. Stop thinking about why you can't do it and figure out how you can do it.
Woo! Wait a minute, y'all dropping some dimes. Yeah, I love it. It's very harsh. The way you said it, Lyle, is very harsh, but I absolutely love it. I think I can't even add to that. You guys, that was Muy bien, phenomenal. Guys, this has been such an amazing interview. I really, really, really appreciate you guys coming on, sharing your story and sharing all of your tips in order to, get the bathroom ready and to flip these houses and to get into short-term rentals. I think you guys dropped a whole bunch of dimes. But before we go, I have to know, Megan, Lyle, where can people find out more about you guys?
On my Instagram, or our Instagram, for the love of Fi. You can find him on Lyle Fugate. He is a Maryland real estate agent. So if anyone's looking.
Gotcha. And of course,
my personal is Megan Kathleen, but I don't really do anything on mine.
Gotcha. And of course, guys, I'm going to have those linked down in the show notes where you guys can find it. You won't have to go very far. Their content's awesome. Definitely go hit that follow. But yes, I really, really, really appreciate you guys coming on, sharing your stories, sharing your experiences. And I really think the listeners are going to get a ton of value, especially the listeners who are in a relationship and they want to get their spouse on board, their significant other, hearing how you guys did it, how you guys stumbled across it, might inspire some other people. So I really appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you for
us.
having us.
All right, you guys have a blessed rest of your night, guys.
All right,
You
thank
too.
you so much.
Have a great night, James.
Woo, man, I told you guys, Megan and Lyle, they have some controversial takes, but you know what? I really love how they're real and they're willing to give their opinion, even if people don't agree, right? Budgets, they say budgets aren't for everybody. And you know what? I somewhat agree with that. I think budgets can be restrictive and you need to find what works for you and your family. We also talk about them getting into that short-term rental market, but I love how they broke down their plan, what they're looking for, and how they plan on breaking into that. So, man, oh man, God, I just love seeing other couples who are going through this FI journey, just like me and my wife, because golly, man, it's so amazing. So if you guys haven't already, their Instagram is going to be linked down in the show notes. For the love of the FI, you guys can follow them, keep track of their journey, hit them up, ask them any questions, man. These are super duper duper awesome people. But with that being said, if you guys do want my financial coaching, make sure you guys go to my website and schedule that free call down below. And follow me on all my social media. Shoot me a message, man. I'm always willing to talk finances with anybody. But I'm going to get up out of here, guys. This is the Gen Z Money Podcast, and I am your host, James Bowman. And always remember, you're only as secure as your ability to perform. So spend your life accumulating assets that can perform for you. Later, guys.